All right, let's move on to something not so fun. COVID and football, specifically the NFL and college football, it's not a surprise. It's
not
not a
at all.
surprise. I mean, it really isn't.
No, but the NFL's just making up things as they go.
Yeah, well,
That's what's
this is
bothering me.
it's what bothers me, and this is going to be rant level. Like,
Get it?
This shows that the NFL is just arrogant and pompous and doesn't give a shit about anything but the NFL. Because the NFL, and I said this on the show months back, I said the NFL is treating COVID like, oh, COVID will affect these other little peon sports. It won't affect us. We're the NFL, we're the big bad NFL. We own a day of the week. We own Sundays. We're gonna, the NFL refused to alter their schedule. They refused to, alter their schedule from a regional, just a national schedule to a regional schedule. They refused to shorten their schedule. They didn't take any precautions whatsoever to get the season in, try to avoid the surge. Like, the NFL was going to be a target because it's football. Like, if you haven't paid attention, the NFL, football in general, doesn't lend itself to social distancing, all the things that you have to do not to get COVID, doesn't lend itself to that. And look, forget about this whole idea that they would have been in a bubble. You know how impossible it is to get 32 franchises, 53 guys on each roster, not including, taxi squad and folks like that, scouts, general man. I mean, these football teams, these franchises are huge. I mean, that's hundreds, thousands of people in a bubble. Even if you try to do two bubbles, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, it's impossible. You weren't going to do that. You just cannot do that, right? So the bubble was never going to be an option. So they had to do something. They had to shorten the season. Like, there's no reason why we should be playing a full 16-game season.
Right.
There's no reason for it. We should have, at the very most, we should have been playing 12 games. 12 games. Shorten it, make it a regional schedule like baseball did, where the NFC East plays the AFC East, and so on and so forth. Two, and then your four and your two divisional matchups, each way. Like, it just makes no sense to me that the NFL just took no precaution. And you heard about it, right? You heard about the players that were that were opting out. A lot of them said that the NFL is acting like they had no process. Like, the NFL in July, when training camps were starting, they had no procedures in place. They had nothing. Like, how is a billion-dollar organization like the NFL, right, have no procedures in place, have not even a semblance of a procedure in place to counteract this? And I think it was arrogance on their part, because, hey, we're the NFL, we're the big bad NFL, we own a day of the week. No, we're going to play our schedule. No governor's going to tell us when we can play. And not only that, we're going to play and we're going to have fans in the stadium. Not only that, we're going to have fans in Dallas. We're going to have we're going to have fans in Kansas City. I mean, it's just absolute arrogance, and it serves them right. And you know what's the most egregious thing about it? That now we're on week 12?
Yeah.
And it's gotten worse. And it feels like they have no plan in place. Oh, now I read something in Yahoo that they're strengthening their COVID protocols starting tonight or some shit like that. I'm like, oh, okay, it only took 12 weeks. Like, really? Like,
thank you. Appreciate it.
Like, thank you for that, NFL. Like, this is, and I don't even think they're getting killed as much as they should be. And look, I always get blamed for being a baseball defender, because I always chill and defend Major League Baseball, because I think baseball gets ragged on unfairly sometimes. I remember when the Marlins and the Cardinals were, just back-to-back got hit with COVID outbreaks. People were killing Major League Baseball. Oh, typical baseball. They don't know what they're doing. Manfred's an idiot. See, that's why baseball's past its prime, blah, 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 blah. I don't see anybody writing this shit about the NFL. The NFL has done a absolutely horrible, horrible job with this. Like, look at the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos didn't have a starting quarterback today.
It's ridiculous. Like, a very important game too, by the way.
Right, and an important game. I mean, this is a team that has faint playoff hopes. They had no quarterback to turn to, all because the quarterbacks had a meeting, unsanctioned meeting, where there were no masks. They weren't socially distanced, and there were no masks. Like, how does that happen? And then, of course, the Broncos try to ask the NFL to postpone the game till Monday or Tuesday. The NFL says no. Like, seriously? Like, how do you let a fucking franchise who doesn't have the most important position in the sport playing? Right. Can you imagine that?
Well, I mean, that's the reason why they moved the Ravens-Steelers game, right? Because Lamar Jackson. I mean, let's be honest. That's the reason why they did it. I don't want
if I'm the
Broncos,
healthy,
the Steelers are playing right now.
Absolutely. So if I'm the Broncos, I'm pissed off. So hold on, let me get this straight. You can move the Ravens, and I get it. They're the Ravens. They have the sexy name. You know, Lamar Jackson, Drew Lock. Obviously, we get it, Lamar Jackson. But that's not fair. I mean, you did Denver a disservice. You did Denver a total like. There's no reason why that team should have played today.
Right.
There's
And
no
the
reason.
Steelers too, to be honest with you. And the Steelers.
They had no. Yeah, absolutely. They had no quarterback. They had no quarterback. They just threw this guy out there, this poor guy who's trying his best. I don't want to kill him.
Right.
He's not a quarterback.
Right.
Like, can you imagine if, like, I'll use the baseball analogy. Can you imagine if the Mets have, like, their whole 5 starters and their bullpen, they have no pitchers. So they're essentially throwing Todd Frazier out there. You know,
Juan Lagares.
Here comes Juan Lagares out of the ball. I mean, when you start hurting the integrity of the game and hurting the quality of the game, that's where you have to sit back and say, okay, this what are we doing here? Like that, there's no reason that game should be played.
And that's the thing. They've just been completely inconsistent with everything. It's just
incompetent.
It's incompetent and inconsistent. They look at the teams that are playing, and it's obvious now after this week. They literally look at the teams who are playing. Okay, who's playing? Who is not going to play? Can we make money off of this game, whether they play or not? And at the end of the day, they didn't feel like Denver or whatever really deserved to have the game move over for whatever reason. But someone like Lamar Jackson misses a game. You can't have that. It's Steelers Ravens. This is the biggest game of the year. We have to postpone this. F safety, F protocol. Like, we have to postpone it. I mean, they should be postponing every game, to be honest with you. So I'm not opposed to them postponing a game if there's players going to the game with COVID. But you have to be consistent. You can't just tell the Denver Broncos to go out there and throw a guy who's never thrown a pass in his life, past freaking high school, to do anything. It's crazy.
Yeah, and this goes, and this is directly at the top. This goes to all 32 owners or all 31 owners that allowed this to happen. This goes to Roger Goodell. That goes to everybody in the players, like the Players Association. Everybody has a hand in. Like, how does this happen? And it's just like.
It's also the new normal, though. Like, I think baseball got ripped because baseball was the first sport for this to happen to. So, like, a game is postponed or a game is canceled or whatever, and it's new. Now, all of a sudden, it's kind of like the new normal. Like, if there's a game postponed, like, oh, well, we saw it happen in baseball. Not to excuse it, because it's wrong. And you are absolutely 1,000% right. The outrage should be there for football.
But they killed baseball. Like, it was just, I'm literally writing. But there was a lot of agendas in it, obviously, too, though. There was a lot of agendas in it, too. And it's just like, that's not fair. And look, we sit there and praise the NBA. The NBA got lucky. Let's be fair. The NBA got lucky. You know, the bubble worked, but they also got lucky. You also need luck with this shit too. You know, You know, who knows? Lou Williams stays in Atlanta a couple of days longer. You know, with his infamous chicken wings. You know, who knows, right? So, and Daniel House. You know, you had the Daniel House situation. That obviously they got lucky with that. So I mean,
it's also easier to contain like 12 to 14 players, than it is 53 or baseball.
Plus, with basketball, like you could play a basketball game anywhere. You could freaking get a gym, some baskets, get a game going. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't do the same thing with football. You can't do the same thing with baseball. Like
baseball, they were traveling.
Right. Because you can't just tell the Mets, hey, you're gonna go play at, you know, McKinley Park. McKinley Park in Passaic, New Jersey. Like, you're not doing that, right? You're not doing that with no notice and no real ability to alter. So it's look, the NFL has handled this, and look, college football. I mean, what the hell is college? I mean, is college even taking this seriously?
No.
I mean, it just, and look, I get it. It's a bunch of 19 and 21-year-olds. Look, they're going to be partying. They're going to be doing whatever. But I mean, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Nick Saban tested positive twice.
Here's the thing.
What the fuck is going on? Are these organizations actually doing are they following any protocols? Are they quarantining these players? Are they doing anything? That's what I have to ask.
Players are getting sick. They have symptoms, but no one has died yet. And they are lucky that there hasn't been a professional player or a college player to die from this yet. Because once that happens, all this stops. And I think what happens is, you know, let's just be honest, the death rate for COVID, it's higher than the flu. It's higher than a lot of other pandemic things that we've had around. But at the same time, if you get it, way more than likely, you will survive it and you'll be okay. So I think they're just taking a calculated risk of like, all right, these are young, healthy individuals. Yes, they might get symptoms, and yes, we might have some that are sicker than others, but at the end of the day, they're going to be okay. The public's going to see them back on the field in three to 4 weeks, and it's not going to be like anything happened. So to them, it's just kind of like, yeah, we'll say that we'll propose this game to COVID or someone got COVID and we're taking this seriously, but at the end of the day, there's really no consequence for that person getting COVID, because at the end of the day, for instance, I do a podcast with Emmanuel Sanders. He missed 2 games because of COVID. This had symptoms Emmanuel had symptoms. I'm telling you, just from
Mm-hmm.
having to talk to him every week and knowing
Yeah.
I can't publicly come out and say what was wrong with him. Let's
Right.
just say he had symptoms. 2 weeks later, he's back.
He's back. Yeah, he's
And
playing.
he's playing. So in a fan's head, like there's really no consequence for COVID because all these people are young and healthy and they come back. So it's kind of like why should we postpone things if all these athletes are coming back healthy? It's going to take an athlete really getting sick or dying. To be honest with you, dying.
Yeah, and that's I hate that you say that, but you're right. It is
you have like your Eduardo Rodriguez which is my first name by the way, which is hilarious. But Eduardo Rodriguez pitched from the Red Sox. I'm sure you know about that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he has a
heart condition. Yeah,
for the rest of his life. For the rest of his life, this guy he's in the heart for the
Look, COVID is serious, man. And that's what we're trying to preach to people. Like, COVID is serious, and you don't know who has an underlying condition.
Right.
You don't know who has an underlying condition. But my issue isn't even so much with COVID or folks dying. It's just that this billion-dollar organization, and I'm holding these organizations accountable. I'm holding these billion-dollar multinational corporations.
As you should.
Fucking accountable. Like, how are you letting this happen? Like, how is this happening to this degree? And we're in week 12. You've had 12 weeks, not counting preseason, not counting training camp, to get a plan in place. And we know you didn't because we've had players come out in droves say they have no policy in place. The players that opted out said the same thing, that the NFL is acting like they have basically like nothing is going on. And if you know the NFL, if you follow the NFL, if you talk to anybody within the NFL for 5 minutes, the NFL is very pompous and very arrogant. They are the NFL and you're not. No one's going to tell us when we play our games. We'll put our games, in a blizzard, because we God forbid, Bears and Packers can't play. We'll put it in a blizzard and we'll have fans sit out there, freeze their asses off. We don't care. We'll switch a game from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock and don't tell fans with short notice. They don't give a shit. And you know why? Because we watch. Yep. And look, you could call me a hypocrite. You call yourself a hypocrite because we're rabid NFL fans and we'll watch. Yeah. But they deserve the criticism, bro. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I mean, what's going on with the Steelers? What's going on with the Ravens? What happened with the Saints? I mean, this thing is the Titans. I mean, and they're fighting these teams. They're fighting and punishing these teams because they found out that they had COVID outbreaks because of negligence.
Right.
Negligence. It wasn't like, someone got sick visiting Walter Reed and just happened to, happenstance got sick. It happens, whatever, knocking on wood, right? No, this was guys celebrating in the locker rooms, then going home, bringing it back to their family, it's just the level of recklessness that is going on right now in the NFL and in college football for that matter is just disgusting to me. And they deserve to be ripped. They deserve to be ripped.
But they won't because it's the new normal now, which was set by baseball, unfortunately, because baseball is the first sport. And no one noteworthy, and I hate to say that about Eduardo Rodriguez, but no one cares about the fourth starter on the Boston Red Sox.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
It's no one noteworthy has been affected by this. Like if DK Metcalf has to end his career because
Russell Wilson gets it, that's a totally different conversation.
Huge deal, then the league effing shuts down. I mean, God forbid, a like James Harden gets it, and can't play anymore. Like it's all about like who's going to make you money, who has it. And like I said, the death rate, it is higher than the normal disease and whatnot. And it's obviously a pandemic that's sweeping the nation. But at the end of the day, more likely than not, you're going to be okay, especially if you're 20, 30 years old and in the best shape of your life.